Hello all you amazing people, and in today's video I'm going to be going over Yun Jin a year later. So I like Yun Jin sort of as a character. She's not exactly the best, and she hasn't gotten as many buffs as I thought she would on her initial launch, because not many characters have come out doing normal attacks lately. Most of the DPSs lately have been charge attack users or just burst converters, so they do burst damage. I think Sinnoh is basically the closest we have. If you do find yourself enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe and let's get into it. Sadly, he's designed very awfully to the point where he needs to be able to use his energy, or he needs to be able to work and function. So we're testing out Yun Jin, and we didn't vaporize, of course. I mean, we're seeing 68,000 on the third hit there. I would consider that pretty good. I have, played with this quite a bit. I do believe that if I were to take off Yun Jin, it would be a DPS loss if I added Xingqiu instead. We're gonna do it, but I believe it's a DPS loss. Then again, Yelan is actually gonna do more damage, so there is a chance that this is actually a better team, but Yun Jin maybe when you get Yun Jin, C6, she'll be better. I do wish I was able to use her at C6, but I just have not been able to seriously pull any copies of her. I don't think I've summoned on any banner that she's been featured on lately. Maybe she's coming back in the next, banners. So yeah, we'll see. The reason why I'm doing this as a year update is because there's going to be no difference between the end of the month and 54,000. And then on the fifth hit, we hit 68,000. Oh, 71,000 then. So what we saw on the Yun Jin team, our third hit was doing as much as our fifth hit. So our third hit, 158, was basically gaining around an extra 30% attack on Yoimiya scaling. So that's about the damage difference between just a Vaporize, I believe. The Vaporize is affecting Yun Jin's thing. Another thing is, a lot of stuff eventually starts to affect Yun Jin. You go with crit damage, damage bonus, the actual Vaporize reactions and stuff. Those affect Yun Jin completely. Those all affect Yun Jin. So the more EM you have, I believe, the higher this buff technically will be. But you don't really run your EM Yoimiya, so that's kind of a downfall. But I do have 170 EM on my Yoimiya, just coincidentally. But speaking of, with the damage bonus thing, Rust has 80% normal attack damage bonus. Sometimes we'll have Rust going above Thundering Pulse. This isn't exactly amazing nor good. It's not like this is some huge revelation that Rust is now better than Thundering Pulse. The reason being is because Yoimiya has better teams. This team might seriously just outperform overall. You have to listen to the overall damage. You can't just look at, Yoimiya's damage hitting one huge number and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Because realistically, we were probably hitting, I believe the damage difference I saw, because I tried to record this the first time, I believe the damage difference I saw was around 6k. So yeah, around 6k is what I think I saw. Could be wrong about that. I don't really pay attention. I wasn't really paying attention that heavily, but just a blanket, just around 6k. Xingqiu's adding a couple 10, 20,000 ish. Xingqiu's around 20,000 damage, maybe even 30,000. Yelan's another 30, 40,000 damage. It might have made a decent difference, but Xingqiu you can replace with basically anybody. Let's say you wanted to do Fischl. Fischl could have been replaced with this guy. Yun Jin, she needs more buffs. I'm gonna be real. She needs more characters to function with. Yun Jin's max base defense is 734. We only have 651. That is still not a huge amount. That's not an albedo difference. That's sort of that's an 83 defense increase. You could easily I don't think you're gonna see a huge amount of difference between level 80 and level 90 Yun Jin. That's not something. We also need a defense scaling spear. If we get a defense scaling spear, then we're talking, because then Yun Jin is actually seeming pretty good. But until we get that, we don't really have something to run on Yun Jin. We're really just running Favonius Lance. That is, I think, her best in slot. Favonius Lance is most likely her best in slot. You could go for damage if you really wanted. Actually, no. Favonius Lance is her best in slot, because I'm realizing all these things just give you attack. I mean, maybe crit damage would be nice, but yeah, whatever. But you're really just, yeah, this thing is basically the only thing that can possibly do damage for Yun Jin. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. Like, that is a huge scaling for level 1. I'm gonna look up the scaling for level 10. Let's just quickly look up the scaling for that. That is pretty good. Like, that is a decent thing. The scaling for level 10 is 671. Now, in order to get that, you have to have a perfect counter. So, yeah, I'm not exactly too sure, but that is something that you could do, right? And then this is the regular old damage, which ends up going to 268. Now, the constellations can even help Yun Jin out quite a bit, but I still just, I don't think that this is... I think Yun Jin C6 is probably when you can seriously start using her, but other than that, she really doesn't impress me all too much, and especially for someone like Ayato. Now, the reason why Yun Jin works so well with Yoimiya is because Yoimiya literally cannot hit multiple opponents, so you are getting that 30 hits, right? Whereas Ayato, if he hits like 5 opponents at once, that's 5 every single time. He can only do 6 hits. That is very, very bad. Only being able to do 6 hits with Ayato, not good. Honestly, when I looked at this, I was like, why is it so high? Now I'm realizing it's not really that high, because they have it at multiple enemies, which is just basically, if you do AoE, it's not happening. Yeah, and then we even have more characters that are also buffing normal attacks, which I don't want to speak too much on Candace, but there is an argument to be made that Candace may or may not be better than Yun Jin in some certain cases. Like, if the enemies were living longer, right, and they weren't dying in a couple hits, and you have a fully HP built Candace, it might be better to use Candace over Yun Jin, just over the long run. But as it is right now, Yun Jin's buff will basically kill the enemies pretty fast. And this is not limited at all whatsoever, so you can fight. I think this probably, just making an assumption, I believe that Candace probably is better for Ayato than Yun Jin, I imagine. You get the double Hydro, she's gonna get extra HP, and then you can constantly have this buff up without having to worry about the trigger quota. I would say, I imagine her buff can't be too far from Yun Jin's. I don't know how it works, but I'm just gonna stop talking about it there, because I don't know exactly how Candace works. I got really bummed out when I realized, oh wait, her Hydro application is pretty bad. Candace might be the next like 4-star that I level 70 just to test out. But other than that, that's it for this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.